Now, we want to talk a little bit about some of the people who should have been punished for the colossal errors that they made in judgment that led to our economic collapse, but instead got rewarded. The guy who's going to help us do that is John Mattis. He is a reporter and a reporter that I've worked with in the past, and he now runs the website investigativeguide.com. John, welcome to the Young Turks.
How you doing?
Good. How you been?
Excellent, excellent. But I'm not doing as well as Mr. Rubin is.
No, apparently not. So let me ask you about that. Bob Rubin, of course, Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, winds up deregulating the banks right at the end of his exit, or helping to facilitate that process.
Helping to facilitate it would be a kind word, would be a hands-off kind of characterization of what he did. First off, let's dial back. Put him back at Goldman Sachs before he comes over to be Secretary-Treasurer. Then, when he's Secretary, starting in 1995, he starts giving speeches about we need to repeal our banking regulations from the Depressions. Now, remember, we haven't had a banking crisis since Glass-Steagall was enacted. But he's decided, as of 1995, we've got to get rid of it because, quote, the banking industry is fundamentally better than it was 2 decades ago, let alone in 1933. Then he states categorically that the banking regulations from the Depression imposed unnecessary costs and made providing financial services less efficient and that, quote, might be a safety concern for bankers. So, starting in 1995, he's on a crusade to deregulate banking. Now we move through the various attempts, and admittedly, the Republicans were in on the game too. You fast forward to the numerous attempts in Congress with Alan Greenspan over at the Federal Reserve pushing it forward. Then finally in 1999, after 12 attempts in Congress, all of the banking deregulation is passed. And what happens to Robert Rubin? Oh, just coincidentally, weeks later, he jumps the ship and joins Citibank, which has announced that it wanted to merge with Travelers, which it wouldn't have been able to do under the old regulations. So the deregulation that he pushes forward allows him to jump over to Citigroup, to what becomes Citigroup, and then he becomes counselor on the board of directors and a chief advisor, all the time raking in millions in stock options. And, of course, we know the track record. They lost 70% of their value. You fast forward to 2008, and he has taken home almost $126 million out of the bank, while the bank has lost all of, and I call it our money, because we bailed them out.
So I want to focus on that for a second, because the argument that Rubin had was, no, the banks will work better, they will be more efficient, and,
right.
and that they will be safer if we deregulate them. So how much money did Citigroup lose as Robert Rubin was making $126 million?
70% of their value. 70% of their value. So with our bailout of tens of billions of dollars, we had to put that money back in the till, because as of, take it back to 1995, when he said that the banking regulations conceivably impede safety and soundness, limiting revenue diversification. So he's claiming, as of 1995, that it's unsafe to have banking regulations. Now,
that worked out well.
How many years? So we have safe banks from the Depression up till 1999. How long does it take him and his friends at Citigroup to gut our banking system? Once we've taken away the regulations, they really are like kids with candy. I mean, they can't get enough. He takes out $126 million, and our banking system collapses in a span of less than 10 years. I mean, it's really breathtaking how fast this whole thing was pulled off.
So, John, I want to talk about why they got rewarded instead of punished, but I want to do that also within the context of another story you have on your website about Washington Mutual and their CEO.
WAMU?
Yes. So
is that a whale?
Not as well. It wound up becoming a bit of a dead whale. So tell me what happened with WAMU.
Well, WAMU, a nice, quiet thrift in the Northwest. And then they decide, you know what, let's target African Americans. Let's sell loans that we wouldn't sell to anybody else. Let's overprice them. Let's get fees on them. And let's get our sales staff out there. So remember, because now with deregulation and with a lack of supervisory capability of the federal government. But we'll get to that in a minute. So WAMU, or Washington Mutual, decides they're going to sell all kinds of loans to everybody. They're going to put everyone in a house. I don't care if you can even spell the word house. You're going to be buying a house, and you're going to be buying a house with a 3-car garage, the granite countertops. You're going to get the whole 9 yards. And how they did it was rather simple. It was breathtaking. In the old days, you put 20% down for your house, and you went through a rigorous, would be the polite word, for the kind of examination they did of your finances. Well, along comes WAMU and others, and they really bring to the forefront something called liar loans. What they are is income-stated loans. You walk into the bank, and the banker says, well, how much are you making? And you're a hairdresser, and you say, $300,000 a year. And he said, just write that down on a piece of paper, and I'll believe you. So WAMU took in low-income people, falsified is the polite word. They cut and paste documents to make you qualify for a loan. This is starting in the early 2002, 2003, 2004. By 2005, WAMU, which controlled almost a third of the ARM loans and all these teaser loans, a third of the market in the United States, up to 80% of the loans that were audited in some of their branches were fraudulent. So what they did is they took someone who couldn't afford a house, couldn't afford a trailer, walked them in the front door because they're going to make a commission on that loan. They're going to make the fees. And the brilliant thing about it was they're not only going to make the fees, the CEO is going to make his $100 million, but they're going to then sell them to their friends in Wall Street. So there's no skin in the game. So they know those loans are going to blow up because they know the hairdresser isn't making the money. They know by their own internal audits that 60 to 80% of their loans were fraudulent. In 2006, when I started reporting on liar loans, I interviewed a CEO of a mortgage company here in Southern California, and I said, well, how can you do that? How can you change people's income on your loan documents? That's illegal. That's bank fraud. That's federal perjury. How could you do that? And he said, everyone does it. It's called liar loans. So what WAMU did was create a system where every single one of these income-stated loans, they knew they were going to blow up because, A, they were teaser loans, so they had an increased rate coming up on them, and B, they knew the people, the hairdressers, the people that worked in construction couldn't afford these $800,000 homes. No one could, so they knew they were going to blow up, so they had to sell them.
John, real quick here, you glossed over something that was very important. How much did you say their CEO, Kerry Killinger, made in the last 5 years as they were doing this, in essence, fraud?
In essence, no, fraud. $100 million.
Now, I thought people who did fraud got arrested. Now, they don't, and they get to keep the $100 million. So what's wrong with that system?
Let's create a system where we pay the cops to supervise us. So we have the Office of Thrift Supervision. What a name, OTS. It sounds like off-track betting to me, but anyway, and it was like betting. You paid them to supervise you, and according to a Senate report, and according to just conventional wisdom, they weren't supervising anybody. No one was watching what was going on at WAMU. Everybody knew about it. In 2006, when I started reporting on this and I started asking my colleagues, half of them would say, yeah, when I went in for a loan, they changed some of my documents and I had to get them to get it right again. So it was common practice.
Did anyone at Washington Mutual or Citigroup ever get arrested, fined, punished in any way, shape, or form for any of this?
Think about how many people get prosecuted by local DAs for writing a bad check. A lot do, and you get these big billboards, and DAs really like to hammer low-income people to write a bad check. But no one at Citigroup, no one at Citibank, no one at WAMU, not a single person was hauled in front of a federal grand jury for bank fraud, much less securities fraud. much less any criminal violation, not a single one out of all of these tens of thousands of toxic, fraudulent loans. Now, not only think about the human impact. Human impact is you sold someone a house that you knew was going to explode on them. You knew that they were going to be foreclosed. You knew that they were going to be pushed out onto the street and lose their credit, and you did it anyway because you made a commission and the CEO made $100 million, and not a penny of that has come back to the American people.
John Mattis has been investigating this for a long time, especially the liar loans, even before the collapse came in. His website is investigativeguy.com. John, thanks for a terrific report.
Thank you, sir.